Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. So, in the wake of Naziah Harris's story, we can't wait for a trial date, but more importantly, to find out what happened to Naziah and to make sure that Jarvis Butts, that he doesn't just get a slap on the wrist like he has done so many times in the past, and this is why he was able to do this crime against Naziah. And there are other Naziahs out there, and there are definitely, unfortunately, a lot more Jarvis Butts out there. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit more with some stories that I came across only a couple of days ago, and I just decided to share it with you. So in Houston, Texas, Deon Williams, 28 years old, he knew the victim's mother. He was more than likely probably in a relationship with her and more than likely to get close to her daughter. He would spend nights there at the home where the young girl lived, and the abuse started happening in the middle of the night. He would sneak in and he would R-word her. He threatened her not to tell anyone, and if she did, that he would hurt her and her family. The 11-year-old was also having morning sickness and was giving a pregnancy test, and surprise, surprise, she was pregnant. And of course, the 11-year-old girl admitted that what was going on with her, what was happening with her, in the middle of the night. So the family alerted the authorities, and after an investigation, Deon Williams was arrested. And this was recently. This was actually recently where he was convicted. The victim did have the baby, which was put up for adoption. Her family wants to bring awareness, quote, be vigilant on who you bring around your children, end quote, is what they just wanted everyone to know. Deon Williams was recently sentenced to 40 years in prison. As part of a plea deal, he cannot appeal the conviction or the sentence. He must serve at least half of the prison sentence, which is 20 years, before he is eligible for parole. So in 20 years, it's a possibility that he could be out. But this girl, she will always know that she had, bared a child. And when she gets older, every time, I don't think a lot of the men know that, and maybe even a lot of the younger women who don't have children yet know that every time you go to a doctor, she'll be reminded of the baby that she had when she was 11 years old. Whether she wants to or not, they tell you, they ask you, how many pregnancies have you had? Were they complete pregnancies? Were they miscarriages? Were they terminations? But they ask you this. So you are reminded all the time about your situation. And even if you go to a doctor, they can even tell if you birthed a child, and sometimes how many kids you birthed. Well, they know you had birthed more than one, if you have to go. So it's a lot that this little girl will be reminded of when she turns into, a young lady. It's such a hard thing to think about. It's even awful because she's so young, and, she shouldn't have to think about this. But that's just another story that I want to share with you guys that was somewhat similar to, the Jarvis Butts and Naziah Harris story. But this little girl, she is still living. She's still living. So in Milwaukee, when a girl was just 10 years old, Darrick Guider, he is the mother's 40-year-old boyfriend. He would enter her room while she was watching TV. This was the first time. He told her, quote, this is how you make money, end quote. Then he proceeded to R-word her. He put his hands over her mouth so that no one could hear her scream. And he would do this nightly while everyone was asleep. He threatened her too if she told anyone that he would harm her. So the girl, she turned 11 years old, and she had given birth to her mother's boyfriend baby. Just a child herself. Darrick was arrested and jailed. He had tried to convince his girlfriend, the mother of the child that he impregnated, and she bared his child to make up a story. He wanted her to get him out of jail because he did not want to do this time. He called her on the prison phone, and you guys know that the prison phone is recorded. He said, quote, "Tell her that blank. They already found out who he is. It's a little boy, 13 or whatever. Man, they're talking about 6 years. I can't do none of this," end quote. The girlfriend responds, quote, "What boy, 13, end quote. He responds, quote, "Just tell them she had a little boyfriend or something, that she already talked to his parents. They're going through that so they can drop this blank against me, and this blank is crazy. I can't do this kind of time," end quote. So this man just did not want to do this time. He knew what he was doing. He knew that he was R-wording his girlfriend's young child who got impregnated, who had his child, and he was concerned about the fact that he didn't want to spend the rest of his life, a good amount of his life, in jail. This is me speculating, and I probably shouldn't, but I don't know if the girlfriend, knew. Well, everyone knows that they're being recorded, but I don't know if she really knew to the extent of what was going on inside that home, to where he felt that he could call and that she would help. Okay, but thank goodness she didn't, because I believe she would be in jail too if she tried. So Darrick Guider, he received 35 years in prison with 20 years extended supervision whenever he's released. And I'm not certain on what happened to the baby, if it was placed for adoption or whatever. But another sad story with the situation of a girl, very young, whose innocence is shattered because of, a stinking ass man that is in a place where he shouldn't be. And that's basically the only way I can put it. In Cleveland, Tyrone Hugeley, 37 years old, he was R-wording 3 little girl sisters ages 10, 12, and 13 between the months of June 2020 and August 2021. The 10-year-old girl was taken to the doctor by her grandmother because she wasn't feeling well, and it was a shocker when the doctor told the grandmother that she was pregnant. They would later find out that the 13-year-old girl was pregnant too. Both young sisters was pregnant by the same man that was R-wording them. The other sister was not pregnant. DNA test was taken of the 2 little girls that were impregnated by this man, and the DNA test was 99.99999999%. I've never seen a percentage like that, not even on Maury Povich, but it was definitely him. He couldn't escape it. He couldn't get out of it. Now, I'm not certain if these young girls kept these children or if they were put up for adoption, but could you imagine, as these young girls get older, all 3 of them were violated by this man. It's just the 2 of them were impregnated by this man. And again, I don't know if they bared his kids or if there were terminations. I have no idea. But a very sad story. And Tyrone was sentenced to life with the eligibility of parole for 60 years, where he would be a Tier 3 sex offender, the worst kind, and he will have to register every 90 days as a sex offender. Now, this story here is a little bit different, but I wanted to share it anyway. It happened in St. Charles, Missouri. A couple arrived to a hospital, and they had a newborn baby with them. The man would tell the hospital staff that an ex-girlfriend of his had left the baby on his porch. The baby still had the umbilical cord attached and placenta. The baby's body was a temperature of 90 degrees. The father was prepared to raise the abandoned child with, I'm presuming, his wife or long-term girlfriend, but they was ready to prepare to raise this child. But I guess they brought it to the hospital so that the child could be medically looked at. So something just did not sit right with the story that this couple was given to the hospital staff. So they called the police. So the real story would come out. There was an 11-year-old girl that was being sexually assaulted by her 17-year-old biological brother. The brother said he had had sex with his sister over 100 times and did not know that she was pregnant. He also had been sexually assaulting her for years. He couldn't even pinpoint what age she was when he started to violate her. So you see that? He's about a good, 5 years older than her, but he couldn't pinpoint when he started to violate her. Now, the parents claim that they didn't know that their son was abusing his little sister. The parents hadn't even sought medical attention for their daughter, and in actuality, they tried to cover up this crime. All three, the parents, the brother, they all were arrested with different type of charges, of course, and different types of bail. The baby was hospitalized because it was born premature, and I'm not sure about the information and the situation with the infant. They withheld the names of these parents and the brother because the young girl is underage, and they didn't want her identity to be known. But the brother was arrested on, R-word charges and incest. So these are just, some of the stories that I came across that I wanted to share with you guys. And I have the links to the stories that I share with you in the description box if you just want to look at it further. But very horrible situations. We have to protect our children, even the little boys, but today I'm talking about the little girls. We have to protect these little girls, see something, say something. Unfortunately, it's the mothers. Sometimes the mothers don't care that this is going on. And I'm not saying in the stories that I just shared with you that these mothers knew, but sometimes they just don't care. Sometimes they know and they just don't care. I would know. I'm a very light sleeper, and I would know if the person next to me is moving around. I would just know that. But these guys are very crafty to be able to, walk around the house late at night, enter in a child's room, and R-word them. They don't care about the situation at all. And it's disgusting. And unfortunately, it's so many more like that. So these were just the stories I want to share with you. And I would also like to add that, in the stories I'm sharing with you, these appear to be black males that have entered in these rooms. But you guys know, there's disgrace in every race. There are white people that do this, Spanish people that do this. I just did a story of a Brazilian man that was, assaulting a 9-year-old to where she bared his child. I just did that story yesterday. So let's not make it about, like black men just do this. When we know that they all do this, it's just that these stories were right there together. So that's why I wanted to share those stories with you. Be vigilant, like the first story said. Be vigilant and be aware of who we keep around our kids. And ladies, don't be desperate. Don't be desperate. It could be a biological family member, like I just shared with you in the last story. You have to protect your daughters.